go. All right, let's do it. All right, so a little bit later than than originally planned,
Yeah,
but
no
we're here.
worries.
So let's see what we can do for you today. Or do 37 dual blade, or maybe a little bit higher now.
No, I'm still 237. I think I have leveled up a few of the like arcane symbols and nodes since that, but not pretty much it's the same.
Okay. So how are you doing with the character? How are you liking it?
Yeah, I like dual blade a lot. I don't know. I always hear people say that he's not a very good dual blade is not a very good mobber, but if you get the cooldown reduction on your hat, I don't know. I feel like mobbing is no problem at all.
Yeah, I seem to hear some people really like the class, and then they're, they just say dual blade the whole way through. Some people who are, I don't know, maybe trying to compete with other people, they might see other classes have an easier time than dual blade at certain levels. So they might feel like they're, at a deficit, and then want to switch over to catch up,
Yeah, because I know like Blades of Destiny and Blade Tornado both, it just clears the entire screen, so it's not. If I could get a 4-second cooldown on my hat, then that would be perfect. But
yeah, I think a lot of people do want to cycle back into that once they get to like Cernium and Burning Cernium, right? Because of the shape of the maps, and especially like Night Lords, Assassins Marks don't do anything when you get to that new area. They're just way too strong. Yeah. And then Shadowers Meso Explosion doesn't do anything anymore either. And then Dual Blade seems to really float to the top when it comes to that. But I guess until that point, yeah, because of the particle attacks, that seems more consistent with all the attacks rather than still being beholden to the cooldown on the dual blade skills. But it totally depends on your play style and your enjoyment, right?
Yeah.
Especially once you'll get to Moonbridge and stuff, like monsters there have huge hitboxes, so I don't think you'll have any trouble. But yeah, I know at least like a handful of people who just stayed dual blade the whole way through and they thought it was fine. But like on the upper end, people who want to get like the fastest of the fastest, they definitely switch over.
Yeah, plus I don't have a ton of time to be investing in much other stuff than my character's equipment, and like Legion's kind of tough because I work 24-hour shifts, so it's hard for me to kind of progress on other.
Yeah, some dailies is rough to keep up on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not as easy just switching, right? You have to redo your weapon, redo your secondary, redo all your nodes. Like it's
yeah,
it's pretty crazy. So I definitely wouldn't say like, oh, you definitely have to do that. Like if you're okay and you enjoy the dual blade, then definitely just stay the course, as what I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so you're enjoying the class. So what kind of content? Yeah, I guess give us a little bit of a background on like what kind of schedule you play on, I guess, and on what kind of content you do.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do the dailies just to upgrade my symbols and level up slowly, but I don't like grinding for hours and hours. I love the bosses, though. That's like for sure my favorite thing to do in this game is just fighting the bosses. And if I could get I don't have like a consistent party to do like Lucid, or I haven't done Will yet. I haven't actually tried him yet, but I would like to get to that point.
So you're consistently doing Lucid parties?
I'll just join in whenever somebody like megaphones that they're doing a Lucid party, and I'll just whisper them and join their party. But I don't have a consistent team of people that I'm doing it with.
How were those experiences? I'm actually kind of curious because I used to do that like 2 years ago, but like in current day, like if you do that for normal, I'm guessing like you're pretty overpowered for normal at this point, right? So do you gather that usually it's a bunch of people who are actually kind of strong and it's really easy, or sometimes there's a few people who have no idea what they're doing and then you have to like carry them over? Or
well, it's kind of funny because sometimes people just won't even respond. Like I don't know if it's my stats too low, because they usually just want me to whisper my stat and class and level, and I just sometimes I won't even get responses, and I wonder if that's just like they think my character's too weak or what. But when they do get into it, we usually clear.
It could be that they're getting a bunch of responses and they just click whoever is like the highest number, and then they just pick those. Because I know that essentially people don't go for like, okay, this person responded first, so let me take them. It's more like, okay, how can I get the easiest possible clear?
Yeah.
Seems to be a whole lot of, caring more about the results than how you get there kind of thing. Which is, I have my own gripe with that, but...
Yeah, so I mean, if I did have a party, that would be better. I'd rather play with people that I know or that I consistently do every week, but I just don't know anybody that does it, so...
Yeah. Yeah, that would be ideal. Yeah, and setting up your own party is its own kind of worms with like getting everyone to show up, and you know, if someone doesn't show up, and finding fills and all that stuff is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you don't necessarily want to get into that. And so once you get to the hard bosses, though, it's definitely a good thing to set up. But before that, yeah, for the normal bosses, if you can do it this way, because it's not like you're missing out on an insane amount of progress or anything. If you were like with 250 or something and you were doing it that way, then I would say like, you know, consider like a hard boss party, or like, you know, you were way higher stat or something. And definitely doing it more on a regular basis just because of the chance of arcanes, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah, for
and
normal,
then Will, like I said, is the other one. I haven't even tried him yet, but I don't think anybody's gonna let me join their party if I haven't done him.
Yeah, it would have to be like a full struggle party, and then you just take whoever, and you know, everyone's just gonna be throwing, so it doesn't really matter. But most of the time, because Will is level 250, you'll mostly be looking at people like around 245 or higher. Otherwise, the damage reduction is pretty brutal, and that with also not having the arcane bonus damage yet, those two things combined will make the run a lot tougher. I mean, for like limit testing and for practicing, that's pretty good, right? Because you just want to, if you could do it at the hardest mode, then it only gets easier and easier as you go. But you know, you have to have a party that's dedicated to just being okay with failure and learning from that, and that's going to be very diametrically opposed to the people who are just picking the highest stat people because they want the fastest possible runs.
Right.
That might depend on when in the week it is. You know, if it's like last minute and it's like, okay, we probably won't clear, let's just, you know, try to practice and jump into a Discord and kind of just yell at each other and cry about how bad our mechanics are. Like, that could be a very fun bonding experience in my opinion, but you know, seem to not have that as much these days as before.
Yeah.
But so you're okay with that. You're okay with failing.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to get the arcane gear as well. I'm kind of like slowly working my way towards it. I think I have like 5 or 6 Phantasma coins, and then I have the fake arcane weapon.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that was going to be my lowest priority, and maybe I could get that if I end up getting to hard Lucid first before I get enough coins to buy it. But I was going to buy every other piece of equipment before the arcane weapon.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. So what kind of so you're kind of in a stuck position. You are trying to get to a certain thing in the game. Like, do you have any like short-term, mid-term, long-term goals that you have in mind, or is it just general, just next step?
Yeah, kind of next step. I guess I'm kind of slowly progressing. I feel like I work on my equipment a little more than leveling, because like I said, I don't really like grinding for hours and hours. I'll do my dailies, and that'll usually get me like, especially now with the XP you get from completing the arcane symbol dailies.
Yep.
I'm leveling, I get like 10-20% a day. I'm working on my Monster Park medal as well for the IED.
Yep.
And that was actually one of the things I was going to ask you is, I don't know how much IED I need as a dual blade. I know since we get a lot from our skills, I don't think I need as much visual IED.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. I think, the further you go, you know, the cheaper IED becomes still comparatively to other stats, so eventually you do go higher. But I think, like, the end point, from what I heard, I think the end point for dual blades is usually like a visual 90. Like, that's like the end point.
Okay.
So like at your stage, probably somewhere like low 80s is probably fine.
Okay. And I got the Superior Gollix pendant recently, and so I was gonna use one of the 17 star scrolls that we get from this event on it. So I'm just waiting for that before I switch it out for my fake Mechanator or a Dominator.
Yeah. Oh, you have the crit rate one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and crit rate is the other thing, right? That's a little bit more, you know, based on personality style and everything. But like crit is also something that you generally don't need as much, but you can, you know, eventually you go for 100% again, just like with IED. Like eventually you do push it further to make sure that you're always at 100%. But initially, some people don't really go for it, you know, because of the what is it, the mirror illusion, right?
Yeah.
And if it dodges, you get the 100 crit anyway.
I think that's what it's called. Yeah, I think it's
Mirror image, something like that.
Shadow meld. Shadow
Yeah,
meld.
yeah, exactly what I said. Yeah.
With mirror image, yeah. But I
Shadow
think
meld, yeah.
actually without the Dominator Pennant, I do have 100% crit rate still.
Okay. Yeah, because your weapon also gives like 12.
Yeah, 12.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's without crit in your legion, so that's also nice. Yeah. Yeah, she'll be prioritizing basically the boss damage a bit more over the IED, right, in your legion, like you are, depending on how your familiars go. If you have some idea on
Actually,
your
that's another thing as I'm struggling with is familiars. I'm pretty lost on that. I have the big spider that I got a long time ago.
Oh yeah, the old one. Yeah.
I just use it for drop rate, and otherwise I don't have like any good familiars.
Okay. And you have, I see at least 8 badges here, but do you have 10?
No, I think
cool.
I only have 8 badges.
8, okay, yeah. Yeah, the other 2 will be easier once you get to the higher level monsters.
Yeah.
They're pretty simple then, and then you can have 3, and then you can start leveling up familiars. Well, yeah, I guess that gets us into like the topics and everything. So are there certain topics that you're already... So, you know, because I have a lot of resources on my channel, right? A lot of the commands. Yeah. So which ones are you already pretty familiar with that I can like build on? And then which ones do you have some questions on maybe? And which ones are you not familiar with at all? Like which topics?
I guess like the V matrix, I kind of screwed up in the beginning because I didn't even know how to level up your nodes.
Right.
And so I was scrapping a bunch of nodes because I just didn't understand it at all. And I've actually been pretty unlucky because I've probably opened up thousands of nodes and I haven't gotten a perfect trio. The Phantom Blow, Blade Fury, and Asura's Anger. I haven't gotten that yet.
Yeah, that does set you back a bit. A whole lot of 2 out of 3s probably.
Yeah, exactly. And like I think my sudden raid is way overpowered because I have it in almost all my nodes.
Some 4, yeah. I think eventually you want to go to 4, right? 4 total?
I'm not sure.
Let's see. Dual Blade. Or Blade Master, technically, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so Blow, Fury, Asura, and then Sudden Raid, Blade Clone, and Blade Ascension. Switch Blade Fury and Blade Clone later for distinct mobbing and bossing setup nodes. Okay. Right. Okay. So they're saying like, yeah, you wanna get the Phantom Blow and Blade Fury and Asura's Anger in the beginning, so you basically have both mobbing and bossing on one, so you can basically do with 2 boost nodes and then equip skill nodes for all the rest, right? Because you know for bossing it's gonna be really nice to have the Bind, to have the Shadow Walker, to have the Last Resort, right? To have all of those, and then for mobbing you basically want to have all the decent skills in there. Because typically you don't rely on your glove for Sharp Eyes, and you want to get Sharp Eyes, Speed Infusion, Holy Symbol, maybe Combat Orders, all of those in. So you want to have like a limited amount of slots dedicated to boost nodes rather than skill nodes. And it seems that later on you want to switch the Blade Fury and the Blade Clone so that you can specifically have one for mobbing and one for bossing. So it seems what they want you to do is get Phantom Blow, Blade Clone, and Asura's Anger together, because that's like specifically for bossing. And even Asura's Anger, you know, you'll use it for mobbing as well, but it won't be as necessary to do as much damage there, right? Because it'll just kill even when it's not boosted, once you get stronger, basically. And then you have Sudden Raid, Blade Fury, and Blade Ascension as like the mobbing, so that you can really just only use 2 slots at a time. And then, you know, once you're like level 270 or something, you'll probably use all 4 just to have everything boosted, even when you're bossing. But outside of that, you'll just have 2 slots for boost nodes, and everything else will be skill nodes, so you can, you know, take massive advantage of all of those skills available to you.
Okay. Actually, I don't even use Blade Ascension.
Yeah, that's like a filler.
Other than for mobility.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, because it just does such poor damage, and I don't even really like that skill, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think it's for repositioning. They changed it a little bit in the utility, right? You can use it from the ground with the up arrow, so you can go a bit higher, which allowed you to catch certain platforms now. So you got some vertical mobility. You don't have to rope lift to get up to some places.
Oh yeah.
So that's in some maps it'll be useful, but yeah, definitely not in all of them. But it's mostly a filler skill because it's like more useful than anything else you would put in there, basically.
Yeah, I only use it for mobility, yeah, so I
Yeah.
don't use it to kill ever.
Yeah, for sure. I think what'll happen sometimes as well, you'll use it for mobility, and maybe monsters will respawn on top of you right as you use it, and then if it's boosted, it might actually like kill them as well. Just all the little
Okay.
bits adding up, kind of thing.
I see.
Um,
Yeah, so I guess I'm kind of trying to get more node stones, and I pretty much bought all the node stones already from this event shop. But
yeah, there's not that
I
many,
don't.
right?
No, it really wasn't that
A
helpful.
little bit disappointing, yeah. Yeah,
And
but
then I
if
was hoping I could get some from the Lara shop, but I can't even use it on this character. So.
yeah, no, those aren't. Lara, I think the only item that's tradable is the job change coins, like subliminally trying to tell you that you should switch jobs. Is that the Chains of Hell on the level 11 thing there on the left side? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would say don't level the current nodes too much further, but look for your like trios first, and then settle on that, and maybe even craft like if you have to. Because like once you eventually want to go down to 4, and if you go too much further and you have to disassemble like a fully leveled up like level 10 or 11 or something, that is a lot of efficiency lost there.
Okay.
So I think you're like at a moment, like at a little bit of a crossroads where it's going to be a good idea to try to settle into your nodes. And if you don't, you're also already decent level, and you can always unlock an extra slot if you need to. Like the only main thing when I look at the matrix, the thing that you're like missing now would be the sharp eyes, but you have it on your gloves. But eventually you want to get rid of that there, and focus on critical damage and legendary, right? And then the sharp eyes would come back in. And then the other thing is speed infusion. You still do need speed infusion and green pot to hit your max attack speed.
Oh, do I? Okay. I was actually gonna ask you if I needed it. Should I try and get it on my bonus potential, or what's it called? Bonus stat.
Bonus stat? Oh, you mean inner ability?
Inner ability, yeah. Sorry.
So people who if you end up getting it on inner ability, that basically saves you a matrix slot. But usually for the inner ability, you want to get boss damage for the top line, and then you want to try to get the skill node in the matrix for the speed infusion.
Okay, because I think I have for my green line right now. I think I have 27 attack.
Attack, yeah.
Which I figured wasn't that good, but I was just keeping it just in case I didn't get anything better.
Yeah, you get the buff duration and attack. Like, I mean, as far as inner abilities go for Double, that's already on the upper end, honestly. Because the top line does something and you have the buff duration near perfect line, so that's already really, really tricky to get. So, yeah, for all that matters, that's already pretty good, so I'm not going to, like, shit on your inner ability at all. You'd want to get, like, either a full line of Mesoptane or drop rate or boss damage or even attack speed, so you can save a slot in your matrix. And then attack is probably, like, the 5th one on the line. But, with the unique line being what it is, can't really say that that it's really bad or anything, so...
So the boss damage would probably be best in slot for that?
Yeah, I believe so. So if you go to the inner ability command, that has like, so similar to the V Matrix one, it'll also have like the inner abilities for all the classes. With also like a little bit of like a link on the top that I added here for on like how to do it. They also pop up when you use the inner ability command in the chat. Basically on how to go about rolling it, because just because these numbers is what you're going for, that doesn't mean that it's obvious on how to get that, right?
Right.
People can still go in a very inefficient way. Yeah, so it seems boss and attack, 10% cooldown skip, 38% buff duration, and maybe even 20 crit. Like, seems like there's a lot of outs here. So, yeah, it seems like you want 20 boss on top, and then for a third line, either attack, cooldown skip, or crit would be desirable. I guess cooldown skip because of your... is that because of... Final Cut?
I think almost all of my useful skills have cooldown that I use, like Blade Tempest, Blades of Destiny, Blade Tornado, all of them.
Yeah, but cooldown skip can't work on 5th job skills.
Oh, it doesn't?
No. Yeah, that would be busted. If that worked, then I think every single person's best in slot would be to get 20% cooldown skip on the first line, and maybe even ditch attack speed. Yeah, because that would be ridiculously broken. Because even just the odds, if you have like 3 good 5th job skills, like on average, 1 out of 2 of the times, like one of them is gonna go off cooldown. Like imagine an arc putting like Abyssal Recall and being able to Abyssal Recall like 3 times in a row or something.
Yeah.
That'd be absolutely...
That would be ridiculous.
That would be so crazy, yeah. So, but there is a chance for like 4th and 3rd and everything that... Okay, so it's for Final Cut and Chains. Yeah, so you have more chance for your iframes.
Oh, it's for iframes. Okay.
Yeah, and then also for, I guess for Final Cut, and then the other skill that reduces the cooldown, that could skip as well, so you get even more cooldown reduction on your Final Cut. So it's like 2.5 uses, I guess. I think it's a similar way that the cooldown skip is also mentioned for Dual Blades, for Demon Slayers, because they've also got like 2 dependable iframes, and if they can cooldown skip on those, that just the amount of survivability you get from that is pretty crazy. And I mean, Dual Blade's already not lacking there, right? You got Dark Side and you've got 2 iframes, but you know, Final Cut is kind of like half an iframe, right? It's not it's mainly there for final damage, but with the buff duration you have, and if you can get buff duration and cooldown skip, you should get a lot of utility out of Final Cut.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, the main thing would be to get the boss on top, yeah, and then you just YOLO roll for the last one whenever. I mean, you hold this either way, right, until there's a 50% off. If there's a 50% off and the latest KMS changes have gone through, you definitely have my blessing to like try to roll for boss or even for Mezzo for drop, honestly. That'd probably be more value than just flat attack at your point, because typically you do have a decent amount of attack because you have 2 weapons, right? I mean, your Katara has way more weapon attack than most people, so comparatively attack doesn't scale as well. It still does a lot, of course, but it, you know, compared to getting like a 20% Mezzo line or something, that'd be nice. And I guess if you do roll attack speed and you're like, oh, that gives me room for another good skill in the Matrix, then you could do that as well if you wanted to. If the KMS change went through that the chances for epic and unique lines has gone up, and we'll see that in patch notes when it happens, then that would be a good time to also, you know, lock whatever 2 lines you have at that point and try to see if you can get attack cooldown skip or crit rate on the 3rd. That's always going to be a Hail Mary, but that's going to be, you know, the best it's ever going to get probably once that second change goes through. So if it hasn't gone through yet and there's a 50% off, then I would just hold. Although we just did have 2 reroll items, like reroll events really close together, so it might be a while until we have another one of those.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be one thing to look at.
You're talking about attack, right? I have on my emblem and on my secondary, my Katara, I have attack and damage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know the difference between those 2. I know attack's better, but I don't know why.
Well, it's mainly better because of how much we have of everything, right? There's never inherently like this stat is better than this one. Like you would probably, if you order everything based on the balance that we have, is like attack is best, then is damage, then is like boss damage and damage to normal monsters, right? Because they're typically higher percentage, but they're not applying all the time. And then, you know, like crit damage is somewhere up, probably above attack, and then status somewhere below those things. But that's just because of how much we get of it. Like, let's say that all of your equips, like, let's say that all of them could get percentage attack, but none of them could get percentage all stat, right? At that point, rolling for percentage damage on your WSE would probably be better, because then you would restore the balance between all the stats in your character. And then, for example, if you would flame, you would only be looking for percentage all stat, because then that would be ridiculously broken, because you can't get all stat from anything else, right? So it always comes down to the balance of all the stats that are accessible. So that's a good thing to know, that you just never want to go super hard on one thing and then disregard everything else. And if you do, if you have the ability to be like, okay, I want to get like 9 lines of attack on my WSE, that's probably because you're either already getting insane amount of damage and boss damage and IED from your kit or from your Legion, your links, and everything combined. And then, you know, if you do the maths, it works out to, well, attack would just give you the most damage increase. But it doesn't mean that attack in itself is just better than damage. It just means for your situation it would be. Does that kind of put things into perspective?
Yeah.
So the thing is now that damage is a bit weird, because flat damage used to definitely not look as good as it does now because of the reboot passive, right? You would have way more damage, and then when you're bossing, the damage, so the damage percentage that you see in your stat window, right, and the boss damage would be thrown into one pile, and that would be one big multiplier. But what happened was, you know, because of the reboot passive and because of some characters' kits, when I was bursting on my arc, I would get to like 900% total damage, or sometimes even over 1,000, depending on like party buffs. Which of course meant that because it's additive, right? The damage that I get from the final damage from the damage boost from reboot, there was only a small portion of my damage being increased, so there was like reduced efficiency there because it was getting thrown into a giant pile of damage that was already there. So what they did now was change that to final damage, and final damage just always is multiplicative with everything you already have. So, you know, if someone already has 100% final damage or 1,000,000%, if you add 40%, you just take all of someone's damage, you add 40% of that, and then that's just how the number works out, right? So it's a more fair way of increasing everyone's damage by a percentage rather than, you know, before it was a percentage as well, but it was an additive percentage. Now it's a multiplicative percentage.
Okay.
So that means that now if you look at an item and you look at like the plus number or the minus number, it's going to look very weird. So it's very possible now that percentage damage is actually like a higher plus number, a higher white number than percentage attack based on how much you already have. But that's what you have to realize is that specifically because the percentage damage will go into your damage range, and the white number looks at your damage range. And damage range is actually a very bad metric to look at, so it can be a little bit confusing. Now, it does mean that your damage will go up more from percentage damage than from percentage attack if you're hitting normal monsters, right? But the problem is you want to optimize for when you're hitting boss monsters, and that's not a number that you see. Because you see your damage and your boss damage right together, that's like 300%, at least in the stat window here, right? 309%. But then separately, damage is set to 125. So that damage is being, you know, like represented way higher if you're just looking at your damage range and how you're attacking normal monsters versus the situation that you kind of want to optimize for, which is when you're fighting bosses, because that's what you want to do. Well, that's what you enjoy doing most, and that's when your damage is really being tested the most, right?
Yeah.
So, yes, damage is really good to have when you're specifically mobbing if you need it to kill monsters, but for scaling for later, we still go for percentage attack and percentage boss damage, right? Because that total pile of damage and boss damage together is going to be smaller because of the change in the reboot passive. That means that comparatively, the boss damage lines are actually going to be more competitive with the attack lines than they were before. Which means they can be very realistic substitutes for attack lines, even if before people would say, oh, you just need 9 attack, because that's ridiculous. I mean, that's not ridiculous, but it's like super expensive to try to get 3 lines attack on everything, right? The prices are insane. But getting 2-line attack on 1-line boss is way more available, and on average is going to be very close in damage, might even be better for certain classes now, depending on how their balance changed. And it's just going to get you to the situation where you are near perfection way more easily, because you'll have way more outs, right? You can have boss damage on 3 different lines. You can have 30%, 35%, 40% lines. Way more possibilities to hitting near perfect situations. So in a lot of ways, so the main takeaway I would say is that you want to look even less at the white numbers now and look even less at your range, because it's even more I wouldn't say confusing, but like misleading almost. But the number does matter if you're hitting normal monsters. But again, you rarely want to optimize for normal monsters and more for boss monsters.
Yeah.
Hope that clarifies a little bit like where where all that stands. Yeah.
And I think those are kind of like my emblem is I think I'm gonna leave it where it is for right now. Because
your emblem was attack, damage, and ID. Yeah.
Just because I think, there's some other.
Yeah, because you were close to 80, but you didn't have familiars yet, and this is also without the pendant?
Yeah, the only reason I'm not wearing the superior pen is because I'm waiting for that 17-star scroll to.
Yeah.
Actually got a 12% luck unique line on it after this. So, going to be a little better, I think. Flames are kind of expensive as well, but.
Yeah, and I think it's fine to do flaming a little bit like on the side with boss flames, but not really invest in it unless you're specifically on your weapon, you're trying to transpose the item, or, you know, any kind of other upgrade like major star forcing, major cubing would be so expensive that it kind of becomes reasonable to work on your flames a little bit. Other than that, I don't think there's any real need to go buying flames.
So do you think that, talking about transposing, do you think it's worth going for the Sweetwater stuff over, like, is it that big of an attack increase, or should I just try and get a pitched, like, keep this until I get a pitched boss set, like the at least for the accessories, the face accessories and the eye accessory?
Well, short answer would be yeah. I think it's worth going with Sweetwater stuff. Yeah. A long answer would be like the pitch boss stuff is just so rare. So my Kana and I, we were running for 66 weeks, running both of the bosses, Lotus and Damien, until we got our first drop, and then we blew it up. So there's that. In that time, you can get Monocle and Tattoo and getting both the 21 stars pretty reliably, which means that they both, I think at 21 they have like plus the Transpose Monocle, I think is like 85 attack or something like that, and like around 200 stat, because you'll get a good flame on it, right? Yeah, that would be a huge amount of stat that you'll be missing out on. Okay. And you're getting to the point now where you are specifically going to be designating a mobbing set and a bossing set, right? So I would say once the pendant comes in, the superior pendant comes in, that should replace that line of IED on your emblem, kind of in a way. And then if you get a little bit of IED more from familiars, and that gets you to the point, and maybe a little bit more in the hyperstats, right? Maybe a little bit redistribution there. That should definitely get you to the point where you can redo your emblem and fully look for attack, and then maybe damage on the side. Because then essentially your emblem will go from now what is kind of like a 2-line, 2 1/4 line kind of situation. It'll kind of drop it down to like a 1 1/2 line or something. Because like the damage and the IED will both, they won't even be quite half lines, because the ID won't be really necessary anymore, and the damage will only matter when you're mobbing, and your mobbing damage will probably already be good enough, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to bossing, there'll be a decent amount of progress that you could make on the Maple Leaf emblem, I would say.
Yeah, I mean for bossing, I can, like I said, I can solo pretty much every boss other than Lucid and Will.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean Lucid just has so much health. I don't know if I'd be how long it would take me to solo Lucid if I tried, but
yeah,
I just don't even want to try.
You've tried solo, the easy one?
No, not really. I haven't tried it in a long time. I think because I tried it a while ago, and it was like 2 minutes into it, and I took out a quarter of her first health bar.
Oh yeah, that's a rough one. Yeah, and that's when the dragons and the golems start piling up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no,
I just did.
Yeah.
I was say I just did today. I just did Lomian. I actually carried one of my guild members, and I blew him up pretty quick, and that was, I don't know, it's pretty big gains. Like over the Star Forcing event, I got both of my Gullix rings to 17, and then my cape I got to 16. But I didn't have very much money to spend. I only had like 2 bill to spend, and I managed to get those 3 items there at least. So.
Yep. Yeah, you gotta take it where you can get it, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of the whole thing.
Yeah, because I don't really farm. Like I said, I don't like grinding. So
yeah,
I just get money from Ursus and then my weekly bosses,
right?
And MapleStory.
So are you looking into I guess like terror burning wise and everything? Are you looking into making some bossing mules then? Since that I think would be like a better way for you to make some money extra, right?
Yeah, that's probably the best way I would like to do it. Like the only bossing mule I have right now is my hero, who's 220, and he can kill 3 doors pretty consistently. Chaos Zack him. I haven't done the pink bean prequest on him just because I've been lazy, but
yeah, you really have to. I'm in a good position there. I usually just ask my chat, anyone want to do pink bean prequest, and then I'll always get like 3 or 4 people, and then we just go, and then that speeds it up considerably.
Yeah.
Yeah, more than always invite you to, if you need that stuff done, just always ask in the chat. I'll make sure to yell it out if I see it, because those things are just way more fun and easier to do with a bunch of people than all by yourself. It's so annoying.
Which class then would you recommend next for a bossing mule?
Have you already made your burning this event?
Yeah, I did it for a link skill. I did Kinesis for the link skill.
Yeah. I thought Kinesis was interesting to do like CRA bosses with. Definitely a bit complicated. Requires a lot of, when you're bossing, requires a lot of debuffs to keep up on the boss that amplify all of your damage. So if you do it properly, you do end up hitting pretty hard. Plus there's the giant D20 dice that the die that you summon that kind of like floats around, and you have to control how you move it by like pulling it towards you or pushing it away from you to make sure that it hovers over the boss. That does a lot of damage, but by attacking, dodging attacks, you know, weaving in the skills to make sure that the ball is like moving in the right direction, plus keeping all the debuffs on. It's quite a lot of stuff. It's a little bit hectic, but if you do it all properly, it's I find it very rewarding. But if you're not interested in doing the bosses on that one per se, I mean, Adele is like a brain dead option, right? It's just really, really strong right off the bat. 5th job is a huge spike. Even like, yeah, I mentioned it recently that I recently rewatched my own Adele runs on CRA when the class just came out. It was pretty low level, pretty underfunded, horribly me playing it, like skill level -1, but I was still able to clear it pretty much. Like there's only one that I had to try 2 times, which was Clown, I think, but other than that, like I killed all of them at like level 203 or something. So that would be like an easy one. You could also just, you know, if you really want to, just make another dual blade and use that one as a bossing mule. Like there's nothing really wrong with that, besides, you know, if you put it on the board, you won't get the member bonus twice, but you know, there's probably already a few characters on there whose member bonus is pretty inconsequential for your stat, right?
Yeah.
But if you know dual blade, you can play it well. You might as well make another one for bossing mule, because you can make duplicates. There's more than enough room for that in your on your board, and you'll know exactly how to play the character, so you'll immediately be able to kill the bosses with it, because you know the skills. So that's always a backup option. But yeah, I think Arc, Hoyoung, possibly Demon Slayer. I haven't tried it yet, but I heard a lot of good stuff about that. And Adele are very good picks, and like you can go wrong with Akana, I guess. But you probably already have one at a decent level. I think the first picture is missing of your highest level characters.
Oh, I think I put it in, but I think it got mixed up. I might have put it lower.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Oh yeah, it's down here. Yeah. Okay, so you have the hero, the Phantom, and the Buccaneer. Yeah. So those are like, I would say, a solid list.
Actually,
Mm-hmm.
Buccaneer was pretty fun. He's not very strong though.
Mm-hmm. Is that temporary CRA gear or permanent CRA gear?
It's permanent.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it could be an option as well, just to explore it a little bit. And you're probably getting to the point now where all of the, well, maybe not all the flames, but like most of the cubes that you're getting probably, you know, don't really do much for you and your main character, right? So you can start trickling those down onto the other characters to make them stronger as well. That way you can maintain some of that value and still fund the other characters without directly spending money. And that's usually a way that I like fund those characters as well, without, you know, direct money going in there, but they'll still get stronger a little bit over time. Especially once your flames get like pretty decent on your Blade Master, you know, all the flames and all the cubes just go to the next character, and then that one can start doing the bosses. That increases your income every week of flames and cubes, and that goes again to the next one, and then that's how you basically raise them all up without spending direct money. Because a lot of times when you're looking at like bossing mules or you're looking at farming, a lot of times people just look at the amount of meso they make and then it stops. But like when you're farming, meso is cool, but then you've got droplets, you've got nodes, you've got familiar cards, you've got possibly EXP, you know, twisted times and, you know, materials that you can find. That's all added value there. So I feel like it's pretty important to not overlook those. But same thing when it comes to bossing, is that you make the bossing crystal value, sure, but you get soul shards, you know, which can lead to magnificent souls later on. You get item drops. And you get the cubes and the flames, which can transfer. And the item drops can also later count as, you know, they become backups for CRA, for example. And then later, once you do have a decent amount of money and your Blade Master, like, okay, every upgrade now is like 40 bill, and I don't want to spend that amount. Maybe you just spend like 10 bill on a bossing mule, get all your CRA from 17 to 19 or something, and you have the backup so you don't have to safeguard. And if it booms, it's whatever, because they have those items there, right? That way, those backups also generate revenue for you in the sense of not having to safeguard. And then maybe they can move up from just doing CRA to also maybe doing CPAP and maybe CZAC more easily and Hard Hilla, and maybe they can do a catchy, right? And suddenly they generate like an extra 200 mil a week, and then that catches up again. Or more, you know, because they could get, with that, they could get into the realm of those bosses that probably are going to get their value increased more with the upcoming crystal changes, right? I don't know if you're aware of that stuff coming.
Yeah, I think I understand. It's like the more people that clear the boss, the less money you get from the crystals. Is that right?
Yeah, so the base value is going to go up from, right now the value is 3x, so it's going up to 5x, so it's going to almost double. So that already is like a very appealing thing for having bossing mules, especially if you don't like those grind sessions and you don't like farming, right? Because that's going to make like every individual bossing mule's income way higher, and therefore the return on investment is going to be much shorter. Or it's got to be more return on investment, so a shorter period to make your investment back. Plus, then, yeah, exactly like you said, like there's basically going to be like I think it's up to 3%, if I'm not mistaken, up or down adjustment based on how many bosses are killed. We don't know exactly how that's going to work and why that even is a thing for Reboot, because it's a measure to make sure that the market doesn't get flooded in non-Reboot, but, you know, next on things.
Yep.
So, so what's likely, and at least what happened in KMS, is that certain bosses, basically all the bosses, I think up to or including Lotus and Damien, all just like trickled down a little bit, with the big exception of CPAP, because a lot of people just skip that one because it's too annoying. And then, you know, Akechi might be in the same wheelhouse, might not be. But just Akechi and CPAP right now is 150 mil a week. So if that's going to go up, that's going to be close to like 250 mil a week. And then if that ends up getting adjusted upwards, that could be like 300, maybe go even up to 400 mil a week just from those. So the more characters that you have available there, yeah, might help with that weekly income and supplement the lack thereof when it comes to from the training and the farming.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. Right. I feel like my Buck, I might want to try and do that on him.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think Buccaneer is a pretty good bosser. I'm not sure, but
Yeah, I haven't gotten to well, I'm at Pirates now actually for Project CRA, but it's been a little bit it's been a little bit irregular with doing the stuff there. But yeah, it's on the list. I was old school Buccaneer player. Like I played them from day one when they came out in GMS way back in the day. I was one of the strongest Buccaneers in Barra for a long time, until, you know, potential became so crazy that I couldn't really keep up, and then I kind of quit. But it was like it was a weird class back then, because I don't know if you were familiar with old Buccaneer, because you had the the corkscrew punch, right?
yeah.
And there was like a combo with another skill with like the double uppercut, I think. And during almost all of the skills for Buccaneer, they would be completely invincible, at least for the attack animation. But you were able to weave attacks together so quickly that you would just basically be invincible the whole time. And the main thing back in the day was that monsters would hit you super hard, so you'd spend a lot of money on potions. But then Buccaneer came in, and if you played everything well, you would almost never get hit. So you could save a fuck ton of money on potions, which meant that you didn't have to go merching and doing quests to make money for potions, but you could just keep training the whole day, and that would actually increase the speed with which you were able to progress compared to other people. You had like Snatch and Demolition. It was a really weird skills, and Energy Ball. I don't think the Energy Orb skill still exists, right? I think they got rid of that one.
No, it's. I'm not sure if it's still there. I know that their fifth job, like Dragon.
Yeah, now they have like a giant ball that they.
Yeah.
Giant Energy Orb. Yeah, but it was like a little Energy Orb that you would shoot out, and it would like bounce between targets. And you had like an Energy Blast, and like Snatch would basically be like the like the Wonder Woman whip, basically, and you would like pull every monster in for like a certain distance, and then you would spam like Dragon Strike. Well, now Dragon Strike I think is a debuff, right, with the cooldown. But then it used to be like your main attack move if you were untransformed, and if you transformed, then you would also use Dragon Strike still for mobbing, and then for single target you use Demolition, where you'd kind of do what Demon Avenger's main attack is now, but then you hit like 8 times in a row, and you'd be completely invincible during the whole time. So like if you timed your attacks well on bosses, you would just almost never get hit. And if you did like the rushes and the punches and all that stuff and the octo punch when you were mobbing, you would also almost never get hit. So it was like a really weird class back then. But yeah, they kind of fell off. And I think with the latest changes, I think they're in an okay spot now. The main thing is that Lord of the Deep is your is like your big thing, right? It's very important for mobbing, because you want to jump around with Lord of the Deep and have it be really strong so that your mobbing can be really good. But then for bossing, if you rely on Lord of the Deep a lot for your bossing damage, you have to stay really close to the boss, and that can be, very dangerous depending on what boss you're doing.
And I know their other fifth job skill, the other dragon one, I can't remember what it's called, but it pretty much melts the boss. It's like their burst or whatever it is. But
yeah, that was the fourth one that charges up like the big mouth, and then like a big ass burst, and then with a iframe at the end. Yeah,
that one's super strong.
Yeah. Without that one, they were really struggling for iframe, because their only iframes would be in firing one of those big energy balls. So you'd have 3 of them, which is technically like 3 iframes, but it's also your burst, right? So if you're bursting during domain and like you're throwing those energy balls out to maximize your damage, or with a little bit of time in between, because they also recharge energy. But then that you're completely out of iframes when you're not in the burst anymore. So it's like, okay, now what? Now you have to stay really close to the boss, but you have no iframes and no way of reducing incoming damage. So yeah, the addition of that new skill, which also has a pretty short cooldown, I think is a good addition to their kit for sure.
All right, yeah. So I'll probably try it on them. And then one of the big things that I wanted to ask about was like familiars. So I have pretty much no familiars. I have like every time I reveal the potential, I get something shit, and so I just
large MP. Yeah, the fact that you're using large MP kind of reveals that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know which monsters, because I see everyone has those. What is it called? The Mabagonia or whatever, the Mabajogi, whatever the Ninja Castle familiars are. Right.
Yeah, Momijigauka ones, the Oda warriors. Yeah, it's either like, well, people who were there around that time either got a bunch of the ones that you have, right? The Junior Boogies or the Oda warriors. More people end up with Oda warriors, but that's not like 100%, but a lot of time that meant that people kept farming familiars after they nerfed the thing, and they basically were bug abusing the drop rate for the familiars. But yeah, we don't have to get into that now. But yeah, basically it was just like mass epic revealing back then, right? So people who did like the Junior Boogie thing but got like thousands, or did the Oda warrior thing and got thousands, and then eventually got things that were decent enough, and they could kind of like skip the whole thing where they need to find the cards. But yeah, so well, the main thing is that it doesn't matter which familiar you get. It's more like a power in numbers kind of thing. So it's just like quantity over quality. Okay. And yeah, honestly, unless you're going to be training in Asphera, which I don't know if dual blades do. I think you tend to stay in Arcana all the way up to 245 and then try to go into Moonbridge if you're strong enough, right? I think.
No, I don't do any mobbing or farming.
Yeah. So I would, so depending on where you go, familiars don't drop everywhere. So in the lower regions, I would usually lower level regions, I should say. Lower regions is something else. Lower level regions, typically just when you're working on Legion and you just get some cards there, you just transfer them all to whatever character you want to get some good familiars on, and then just open them all up there. And then you're just looking for IED basically, right? That's like from commons and from rares. You can get that 15% ID lines, and that for bossing. And then if you get anything with drop rate, but you already have the spider, so you can kind of ignore anything from common and rare that has anything to do with drop rate.
Okay,
and then
it doesn't matter what familiar I get. I just need to find one with not a shit potential.
Yeah, the potential is completely linked to whatever the tier of the familiar is. Doesn't have to do with which one it is, just the tier.
Okay. And so eventually you do want to get to epics, and you want to make epics, because that's where the bigger chunks of IED and boss damage come in, and also large drop rate. So getting to epic has like really big value. And of course you're going to open up a lot of the shitty ones. But once you get like large drop rate, that would mean it actually gives more drop rate by itself than just the spider when it comes to items, not meso bags. But hopefully by that time you're training and you have more mesoptane and drop rate specifically in your equips, which can cover the loss of item, cover the loss of a meso bag drop rate, and then switch to the large drop rate will help you get even more cards. Is the only way to reset the potential on your familiar by leveling them up?
By ranking them up, yeah.
Or ranking them up.
Yeah, leveling them up will just add a little bit of attack and a little bit of defense. And will allow you, if they're max level, to rank them up to the next rank if you want to. Up to unique. Unique would be the highest.
So if I get one to epic and then it has a bad potential, I have to get another like 100, 150 familiars and then level it up to 5 to rank it up to reset the potential?
Yeah, if you want to get to unique, yeah. But if you're kind of short on cards, you probably just want to make another epic instead. Okay. But if you are like swimming in cards because you do train and farm a lot, which will probably not happen to you, then you can go up to unique, right? And then because the unique lines are slightly better, plus the second line on a unique card is also an epic line, so that's pretty nice. But the chance of failing there is also harder, so you'll need a lot more cards on average to be able to tier them up. Yeah, so, but until then, you could just mass make epics. And honestly, if the epic is completely trash, you can just toss the epic back in and level the other epic faster, honestly.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And then all the other
And
cards, all like the junk cards that are all different, you can just extract those for some points so that maybe you can afford a booster pack, or maybe you can have some backup energy, right? If you do long training sessions because there's some crazy event or something, then you can recharge your summon gauge so you can keep them summoned longer.
all right. And then do I want to get? You said boss damage and IED. Do I want to get like a healing familiar?
Yeah, so if you see like large healing to nearby people, large healing to party members, large drop rate, and then any kind of big IED or boss are basically the ones you're looking for.
What rank does it have to be for those?
Epic. Epic starts with those, yeah. And then Unique has those as well, and then some are just like slightly higher percentages, specifically when it comes to the boss and the IED. But for Unique, then there's a few extra ones that some people look for. They also look for maybe for auto steal from mobbing. That's a pretty min-maxy one. And they also look for item drop rate plus 10%. But the main thing is just that the higher you go, the more variance there is. So you'll just also get a lot of very, very shit unique ones. So it's probably better in the beginning to just mass produce epics. Unless you're like, you're just literally getting 1,000+ cards a day. And you can't really make the epics that quickly because it's just, your whole inventory is filling up, then you might as well make uniques, but,
Alright.
But yeah, I linked you the familiar guide that basically has all the numbers, you know what to go to, and then has some resources at the bottom with some advice. Which is, most of that stuff we kind of talked about now, but like what kind of lines you're looking for, and also some links to like what are the possible familiar lines, right, depending on the tier, and then how drop rate works and the stacking, talking about the percentages, right, like what line means what percent of drop, and like how much do you need to make sure that you can always have a meso bag drop, right, so you have that at 100% so that you can work more on meso obtain from your equips. And also how it stacks and everything, and then also for badges, because you're pretty good on badges, but just for completion's sake, you probably just get the Moonbridge and then probably get the Labyrinth at 250 and then you're good. A lot of times people try to get to 10 badges by the time they get to Moonbridge, because then it's really nice. Then you can have your spider for the drop and then have 2 familiars in there that you're leveling. And then when they're level 5, you fuse them up, boom, get into epic, and then equip 2 new ones. And then while you're training, you can level them up, right? And you can do 2 at once instead of 1 at a time, so that doubles up the speed of generating epic cards.
Yeah, I think I was really close to the time badge, and then I realized that I needed all the bosses.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing that.
Yeah, I only got them because I got 2 of them from a booster pack, and then it was like, oh shit, I only need the last. No, I got 1 of them from a booster pack, and then the other one I got just because you used to have to walk to the bosses, and I would always like, on my way to Ping Bean, I would always just kill Laika and then go into the boss, but I would always have my drop rate coupon on, and actually I think I got 2 or something Laika cards doing that, and then I got the one from the booster pack. I was like, oh shit, now I just need 1 more. Okay, I'm gonna go hunt that one, but yeah, even that took quite a while. Yeah. I think it was. Yeah, 6 full rotations of all the channels, I think, something like that. Which isn't too bad, but it's like 180 attempts, It's not the best. But you also get the 3% IED, so it's like a, when you're min-maxing later on, then that one is worth it, yeah. But yeah, I totally get that you wouldn't immediately go for that. That's reasonable.
Yeah. Okay, and then I guess that'll help me out with the bosses a little more.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, if I could get a consistent party for Lucid, that would be a huge help.
Mm-hmm.
Probably have to like look on Discord or something for that though.
Do you have like a consistent day or like time of the week when you could do that?
Yeah, I can either usually do it on either Thursday or Friday. One of the two. It depends on each week, but either one I can do it on.
And are you in a guild that has runs like this, or are you kind of like a loner in that regard, or?
Yeah, they don't. It doesn't seem like they have people who consistently do it in my guild. They'll do like Lomian, but
they're not quite there yet for a full Lucid party. Okay.
Because I know I can do it elusive with a party, but it's just pain sometimes to find someone to do it.
Yeah, and solo is not really an alternative. You have to be super overtuned to be able to solo Lucid. Boss was definitely not designed to solo.
No.
Maybe in like a few years, people at your level with your level of funding will be able to do it because of a bunch of other power creep. But like at this point, it's too much to ask. Plus, it's not fun because it'll be like very long runs, and you can still get unlucky in runs and then still die out, which is very unsatisfying. And it'll eat buff freezers like crazy. So yeah. I mean, best thing I can advise is just to when you do those megas or you go to those megas, ask people like, hey, are you going again next week, or does anyone want to make a party, right? Like always ask that. Even if it's just 1 or 2 people, then you at least have 1 or 2 people to get started with, right? It's always easier to find like 1 or 2 fills than to find 5 fills. That's always just a nightmare. So I would do that as advice. The other thing is that in my Discord, I don't know if you joined it, you can also give yourself boss rolls. There's one for Lotus and Damien, and one for Lucid and Will. So you can always ask there if people want to make a party. Everyone who's in that room has signed up to be in that room, so you can harass anyone there. If they don't want to be harassed, they can just leave that room. So you have my full, you have my blessing to just go in there and be like, yo, who wants to make a fucking party? Other than that, you can always reach out in the chat if you're looking for people. I think someone in chat already said that they want to do Lucid, who's on their new Adele, so that could already be one person. But it's good to know, like, hey, Thursday or Friday, who wants to run Lucid on Thursday and Fridays, and just ask. And if you don't get any replies or something, you can also add me in the chat so I can see it. I'll always try to amplify the message if I can, just to, because anything I could do to make it so that people don't feel like they just have to get carried or progress way slower than they could. Anything I could do to help that. Short of organizing 6,000 boss runs every single week myself, because that's like a little bit too much as well. Though I could, to some degree do that. That's not fun for me either. It'd be like, okay, who wants to come now? And then I kind of want those things to organically kind of happen without me needing to be there actively in there, for it to work. Because that feels like as soon as I'll be gone, the whole thing won't work anymore. And that feels very bad. That feels like I'm not setting up the right kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so Striker Alex says he's down to party. All right, that's one. All right, keep looking. And if you're like, okay, we have 4 people, we need 2 fills, or we don't have a Kana, there's always going to be someone in chat who's like, oh, I have a Kana that's like 230 or something, or like 220 or 225 or something, with like okay level domain, and I have a higher level main, so I know the mechanics, so like I'll be okay to join. You always have people who are like looking for the Lucid Soul, or just, who are okay with doing the boss for like an extra boss crystal. Or now, because you have that event, right, with the black beans, but a bunch of people will be okay with like running an extra normal Lucid and maybe even an easy Lucid, just to finish up the black beans, because you have to go pretty far, right? You have to do like up to Hard Will or something, maybe even Tenebra's bosses to like cap on the weekly. So they'll definitely, like, events like these would be a good time to start setting up a party. And then once you get,
I did most of them last week and I only got to like 290.
Yeah. Yeah, some people are like pretty mad that they can't easily max, but I think it's also good that it still shows that there's still growth in there for you. Plus, the people who are far into the game, who generally get less out of seasonal events, because they can typically, the items in the shop are typically pretty shitty for them, or they're like min-maxy things on the upper end, like a black flame, but there's not really much in there to get. So it'll be cool that they can cap out a little bit harder. But even then, most of the lower level people, they'll only get the droplets and then maybe a few flames. There's not much in that store anyway. It's mostly for non-reboot people that there's a lot of items in the store to get, and that it would be very that's more valuable for sure to get high black beans.
I was probably just gonna spend it all on the droplets, because those take forever to get, and I didn't really. I don't think I really need anything else in there. So.
Yeah, and then flames just with the leftovers. Just you don't want to throw away black beans either. But
right.
Yeah.
And then I bought all the node stones from the pink bean shop, and I have no idea what to spend it on now.
Do you have a soul bag?
No, I don't.
Okay, I got a 40 slot soul bag. That's a fucking lifesaver. That's like doubling your inventory space almost. That's really good.
Okay.
Because you're holding onto your souls until like Magnificent Soul to open them up, right?
Is Magnificent Soul? You just get a RNG?
Yeah, it's the RNG one, yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I've been using my souls and I haven't gotten a Magnificent one yet.
Yeah, so if you use them off event, it's a 1% chance to get a Magnificent, so it's pretty much 0. But if you save them all up and you use them during Magnificent, it's 5% chance, which is still pretty shit, but at least it's way better. Plus you get to cluster all of your results, so it feels better. And then Magnificent Souls, yeah, they don't have expiration and they are transferable, so you can also do it on multiple characters, and then move them onto one character. Do you know about the tiers of souls and everything? The ones that you want to do?
No, not really.
So if you check the dailies command, there's two tabs to this, and then one is like kind of like what is the stuff that you can get from the bosses, and the other one is like at what level do I think it's worth spending your time doing this stuff, right? On the first tab you can see the soul tier, soul shard tier. I also put a link here to the soul weapons if you want to get like more explanation on the wiki. But basically what you're looking for is the double S tier, because those are the high level ones that when you get the Magnificent, there's a chance for like IED, boss damage, critical rate, percentage attack, and percentage magic attack, for like the best stats. And so you see like all of the higher level bosses, those are all double S's. But there's a few of them that are pretty easy to get. So like Crimson Queen, Vellum, Normal Cygnus, and then Magnus, so also Normal Magnus included. Those are, but then specifically Normal Queen, Normal Vellum, and Normal Magnus. Those are daily bosses, but they do drop double S soul shards. So if you're gonna do any daily bosses in the short term for like value in the long term, those are bosses that you can do for that for sure. But yeah, I would hold on to them until Magnificent Soul. So basically, whenever all of this stuff, and the same thing is like, when looking at when there's an event and when there's a Star Force event and all that stuff, most of the time you can check the event calendar. Have you seen that one before?
No.
So I take all the events that are in the patch notes, and then I'm like 2 weeks behind. Hang on, I need to and then I hide the rows. Boom, when they're gone. That means that Lara pre-registration is gone. So this one is also hide, which means these guys get a little bit fat. So we need to make them thinner. There we go. And you can basically see all the events that are going on right now, and like how long they're going on, how long everything is lasting, right? When the next update is, and how much time you have for everything. So you can kind of use this to gauge like what do I need to do which week. When is it the last week? So you see some things are ending in 2 weeks, and then there's Sunny Sundays for those 2 weeks, and then we have like a huge gap here. Oh, so this is probably when there's a new update, right? So you can always check the Sunny Sundays here. I'll just take like a picture of the screen of the patch notes for that, and you can see every week which day is which event. So you can plan accordingly.
Oh, okay.
So this is where you will see Magnificent Soul events, 30% off Star Force events, 5, 10, 15 events, 50% off Inner Ability reroll events. Those will all be on Sunny Sundays. So for those, you want to like plan ahead. So you'll always know like at least 4 weeks ahead. Typically it's like 6 or 8 weeks that you'll be able to see. Well, I think 5 or 6 is more useful, more usually. That you can see, okay, are there any big events coming? If there's not, you can kind of sit back and just play the game like normal. But if there is a major event going on, and there is a 5 to 15 going on, then you want to maybe do a little bit of planning and be like, okay, maybe I should train a little bit more, or do my bosses, make sure I get all my bosses done so I can have a bit more money when there's a Star Force event. Or, oh, there's a 5, 10, 15, or there's like a Magnificent Soul event coming on. Oh, make sure that on that day you check like all of your characters that you do the bosses with, and the more bossing mules you have, the more that will be, right? And just double click the souls. If you get some non-Magnificent, you can either put them in the soul book or just let them disappear, it's whatever. But if you get some Magnificent, then you can either, hold on to them until you get a really good weapon, a high-level weapon, or you can use them on a character and try to get a good roll. And it's this more like midterm and long-term planning, right? So that the things that you do in the short term can give you value in the longer term. And early on in the beginning of the game, it's not really that important to think about things like that. But yeah, if you just double-click every time you have 10 soul shards, that basically means that it's going to take way longer until you get the exact Magnificent roll from the specific boss maybe that you want on the specific item that you want. because it's it's like 3 layers of RNG, right? Like first the souls have to drop, then you have to get maybe a magnificent, and then you have to get the stat that you want when you use it. So because there's already 3 layers of RNG before you get your stat, more efficient approach will help you get that a lot sooner.
Okay. And then we're gonna unlock the Meso shop this week. Is that right?
I believe you have to be gold or something, and it has to be December. Well, actually, that's a good question. Let's check Meso shop. Boom. Here we go. Meso shop, November 17th to February 13th. Requirement. Blah, blah, blah. Meso shop can only be accessed when you reach gold creator rank. Okay, so we got gold creator available after December 15th.
Okay.
So that's 2 more weeks.
I didn't even know it was in that shop. I know that there's a 17-star scroll, and a fairy heart. And I was planning on buying the fairy heart because right now I have just a regular Lydium.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know what else was in there. If there's anything worth buying.
Mm-hmm. 17,000 subscribers give you Karma Star for 17-star enhancement. So that's from the general just getting 17k, and then there's a Karma 17 star from 1.5 bill. In the Meso shop, 1.5 bill. And have you checked if the 1.5 bill is a good investment for you or not? Because that's a lot of money, right?
I think the only thing I need right now at this moment is my superior Gullix pennant. So I think that I can just get that for free from the.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, if you're participating hard, you could get that for free technically as well. If you just go for what is it, 18k or something that we just saw.
Yeah, 17k. Yeah.
17. Yeah. Yeah, 18k is like the magnificent, the big potion for a full level, right? Yeah. All the way up to 250.
And then I guess should I try and buy out all of the Arcane droplets to try and get my Arcane gear?
So Meso-wise, no, but like the black bean ones, definitely, right? Because so for Meso-wise, typically I would advise people to like buy some extra for sure. If they're in your financial situation where you said like, last 5 to 15 you had like 2-3 bill to spend, so you're not like, someone with like literal dozens of billions lying around, right? There is in KMS, they shortly after this whole event ended, so like, we're talking about end of February, so maybe before that time you still buy some extra, right? Let's say that you do end up running Lucid way more, and you end up running Will maybe by that time, and you do end up seeing like a drop maybe, and you're getting closer to like getting some set bonus going, and you want to make some pieces, and you have the money, sure, you can go for it before then, because, there's still a lot of time between now and February, right? But what KMS did right after this event is they added a permanent shop where you can permanently buy droplets at 50 mil a piece. Plus, because they're like in a static shop at that point, you also get the guild discount. So they were actually just cheaper at that point, and flexible, right? You can buy them at any time when you want, so you don't have to worry about FOMO of like, I need to buy them now because otherwise they're gone, right? So that also makes it so that you don't have a bunch of money spent on droplets in your account that is now stuck. Because that's like the last thing you want to do is make a bunch of money stuck, because mesos are great because you can spend them on everything, right? But once they're stuck in a droplet, then now you can't spend them on anything at all anymore. And if then you see effect in 15 coming up before you can make the next item, but all your money is stuck in a droplet, now you're losing out on gains. So okay. I definitely get the event currency ones, because again, like the only other thing you can get with that is flames anything anyway, right? So that's not like a big price you're paying. But I probably wouldn't buy any of the meso ones. I would probably just wait until at the end of the event.
All right. And then, so as far as Arcane Umbra gear goes, I can't transfer hammer any of my stuff onto that, right?
No, that's they thought of that with making the level gap, right? It's 200, and there's no like level 190 stuff, at least that I know of in the game. I think there's some crazy 180 stuff somewhere, but
it's a huge jump on how long it takes to get that from the Absolab gear. Like the Absolab gear is super quick and get it, but
well, Abzu was really hard in the beginning as well when it came out. I think the amount of coins that you needed for everything was double back then. Plus there were dailies that you could do, but the amount of dailies items that you needed per coin to turn them into a coin was 50 instead of 20 now. So like Absolab comparatively was really, really hard when it came out as well. And they systematically made that easier to get. as people, were reaching those levels more easily. And then they came out with the Arcane gear. And then in the beginning, Arcane gear was really, really hard. But if you compare it to now Arcane gear is actually pretty accessible to almost all players. You still have to, it's not brain dead, like you still have to put in the work. But like, especially once the permanent shop comes out, it's mainly just about like getting enough lucid runs in, and then boom, you can buy an Arcane weapon. It's definitely more difficult for reboot than non-reboot, right? Non-reboot, you could just, for some classes, it's like 50 mil for an Arcane weapon in the shop, and then boom, you have an Arcane weapon, and then you could even get like a flame with reduced level, and you can like equip it at level 170 or something, right? It's a completely different space. But now, like comparatively, now Arcane is already very accessible. Because they did a lot of things, right? They added droplets to more areas. They increased the droplet drop rate. They came with the droplet exchange. That's also a big one, so that people don't get stuck on certain areas anymore. They lowered the price on the armors. They lowered the price per coin. They added the Arcane equip to more bosses. They increased the Arcane drop rate. And the box change is also coming, which is going to change the drop rate a bit more. Plus, you'll be able to pick which item you want from the box when you get a box dropped.
But
so,
that's only dropped from hard, right? Normal doesn't drop those.
No, from hard, yeah. And all, but they also added it like to all of the Tenebra's bosses, right? All the hard versions of the Tenebra's bosses as well. So yeah, it used to be only like Lucid and Will, and now it's hard Lucid, hard Will, Varys Hilla, hard Gloom, hard Darknell, and Black Mage that all drop. But usually by that time you don't really need the pieces that much anymore. But yeah.
Is the do you know, is the Arcane Umbra Katara better than the Sweetwater Katara?
I think there might be like a Star Force amount where it gets close, but generally it doesn't make sense because it's so easy to get backups for the Sweetwater, and you can also transpose the Fafnir into the Sweetwater, right? Like at 16 to get a little bit more bonus stats, and then just mass farm Sweetwater Kataras, and then just keep blowing up its whatever, because you can just get so many backups. So it's a really easy, quote unquote, relatively easy 22 star to get compared to how much you would have to put into the Arcane Katara, plus getting backups for an Arcane is like a nightmare. So it generally doesn't make sense. Some people get it as a drop and then it just anvil or something. But no, generally it doesn't make sense to go for the Arcane Katara, no. Because it doesn't come with that 30 boss and the, 10 IED, I think, right, on it.
It has a lot more attack.
It has a lot more attack, yeah. But it doesn't, but it's also way harder to get to that high number of attack. If you have a 22 star transposed Sweetwater Katara with good potential, I don't think it makes sense for anyone to like switch it into, like if you YOLO an Arcane that you get and you actually get it to 22, then you can start thinking about it. But by the time you have the kind of money to like YOLO Arcanes to 22, at that time, you're in a completely different situation. I probably know much more about your class and about the game than now, so you'll be able to make that decision way better.
Okay. And I haven't transposed my Katara. I didn't even know that you could do that. So I don't know how much stat you gain from doing that.
I think in general it's something like I don't know exactly. I think it's like 9 stat and 8 attack or something like that. I can't be off too much.
So that's kind of a lot, I guess.
Yeah, the further you go, like percentage-wise, the smaller it is, but gains-wise, the bigger that is, because of course it gets harder and harder to make certain gains, and if that's like kind of like free stats that you could be gaining, then that's something that you want to do. So you have to get like a Fafnir to 16 and then transpose it at 16.
So I would have to restart though on my Katara.
Yeah, what do you currently have?
You have a 17 star and the potential's like half decent, I guess.
So the good thing about this is that you can do that as like a side project on another one, and just keep this one while you have it, and basically just you keep doing Commercy because you're gonna get the Narrows and everything for the Sweetwater accessories, right? We already talked about that. So you get a bunch of Kataras while you're doing that. Again, for Commercy, make sure you check the command, because there's like 2 major ways of doing it. One is like for short-term gain, like just get the Narrows to be able to buy the accessories and then kind of get out. The other one is for more long-term, if you want to have backups as well, and you're thinking about transposing like the pendant, and you want to get pendants for pendant backups, because those are like 400 denaros each. That's pretty pricey. Plus, especially if you're a dual blade, I would advise to do that, because The way to do that is doing the furthest voyages where there are the most bosses. That's how you get the most experience to level up your boat. And then once you get the level 3 boat, you can start generating way more dineros per day in a much shorter time. So it's like it's an investment in like the midterm, but then for the long term, you're just cruising through the dineros, and it'd be really easy to make a lot. But for you, that'd be really good because if you're killing more bosses, you'll be getting way more Katara backups as well, and then you'll just be swimming in Kataras. And then for most people, the big jump from where you are now is going to be like star forcing past 17, right? Because you don't want to get too hard on potentials, because then eventually if you have to redo the item or transpose or transfer hammer, then you'll have to roll over like a really good potential, so that wouldn't be very efficient. So the main thing would be to get a lot of backups and then brute force your way past 17 stars with backups during a 5, 10, 15 star force event. So for most people...
17 star scroll from this and use it on the Fafnir and then transpose it to a Sweetwater?
Well, you want to transpose at 16. That's when it's most efficient. So if you do use a 17 star scroll, you would have to like, well, you could transpose it at 17 and be like a little bit less efficient, or you'd have to like fail the star force on purpose and hope it doesn't boom kind of thing to get down to 16, which is like a less than ideal. What I would do is just you probably have a bunch of CRA pieces, right? You can just make a Fafnir.
Oh, yeah.
I would just wait until there's a 30% off and then just send one to 15. And then just sit on that, wait for a 5, 10, 15, then bump it up to 16, and then start trying to transpose, because you'll need time to make dineros anyway. Like, transposing is 10 dineros every time, which sounds like nothing, but you can only try 10 times a day, so that can be up to 100 dineros a day, and it could take a bunch of days before you get it. So
what's the percent chance?
It's like 3% chance or something.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not good.
And if you fail, though, it doesn't destroy anything. It's just...
No. You just lose the 10 dineros. That's it. But yeah, you want to have a bank of dineros, so they'll take a while generally. So you're in a super rush there. But that does mean that the Katara, as it is right now, is kind of off limits. Maybe could be recubed a little bit, but it's kind of off limits at this point, because you could just work on that other Katara on the side until you get something really good, and then you just replace this one with that one. But until you get something a lot better, until you get a good potential, a good Star Force, you won't really worry about the potential on that, so you can just keep using your current one. So the great thing is that even if that horribly fails during a 5, 10, 15, there's no harm, no foul. Like, you'll lose your money, sure, but you won't lose your current rate of damage that you're doing, right? Because that's usually the the hard part. If you blow something up and then you have to take a step back in damage, that never feels good, right?
No.
So if you can work on that on like a side project, and then even if it works or fails, if it works, then you get a big upgrade. If it fails, you stay at the same pace. That's a good position to be in, I would say. No harm, you just lose 20 bill. Well, yeah, but you never pay money to get an upgrade. You get money to pay a chance of an upgrade, right? And if there's a chance to succeed, there's also a chance to fail. So that's just gonna happen, But yeah, a lot of people basically just have CRA in the beginning that they can go past 17 on, and that's the only thing they can relatively risk. I say relatively risk-free, but like compared to other items, right? So we have lower risk. But then as a dual blade, you have CRA, and then if you go through that way of getting dineros and everything, then the Kataras is like another item that you can relatively early, for relatively low risk compared to everything else, get to a high Star Force. And if you're looking at, you're like level 240, 245, and you've got high Star Force CRA, like I'm talking like 21 star or something, and a Katara, you have that, and everything else that you have is relatively the same as now. Maybe you get crit damage on your gloves, so maybe re-roll that emblem, right, after you get the IED from maybe familiars and from the set bonus from the superior, and all of your accessories are like cool 2 lines. You could probably get into Hard Lucid at that point. And then you can start thinking about, do I really need any upgrades now, or am I just going to save money for really big upgrade projects when I get the backups?
So you think I can get into Hard Lucid fairly easily without having to go up in levels?
Yeah, so I think that the upgrades that you want to make in a short term, right? Like, you want to get the superior to 17 stars, legendary, get a nice potential on it. Probably just 2 line is fine. The heart probably replaced with the Lydium heart, right? You'll have the money by the time it's the end of the event, and then the fairy heart, right? And get a nice stat on the fairy heart. Next 5, 10, 15, you could probably bump up the cape to 17. You can start working on the side on the Kataras, start working on Commercy, start working on those accessories, and then next 5 and 15, you can get all those accessories to 17. And And one thing to prep there would be to see if you can get another Dominator pendant, right? And then the Dominator pendant can just go up to 15, just the same as the Buccaneer Katara.
I actually did just get another Dominator pendant.
Yeah, you could just sit on that now and just wait for like a 30% off. See if you get another backup. If you don't get a backup, you want to safeguard it. If you do get a backup, you might not even have to safeguard it, right? On a 30% off, send it to 15. So again, like for 30% off, make sure you keep track of the events, right? Sunny Sundays, so you can see when an event is coming. If there's an event coming, plan accordingly. If there's not one coming, then you can just postpone that, and there's not as much pressure in the short term. But use an event like that to get them to 15, and then you just hold until the 5, 10, 15. And then, you know, for flaming, you can probably prioritize a little bit on the Dominator to try to get a nice flame on that. Typically, a 105 plus flame score is a good goal. You can aim a little bit higher because you're a dual blade, and you get a little bit more flame score from all stats. So you could aim for like 110. Would probably be good. And then get both of them to 16, transpose into the Kataras, and then transpose the other one into the Sweetwater pendant once you have enough dineros, right? So like the Commercy is going to have a lot of pressure now for being a daily that you do, especially because I assume you don't have the Dreadnought yet, right? Level 3 boat.
Let me check. It's level 7 boat, I think.
Is it a cargo skiff or a sailboat?
Oh, it's a cargo skiff.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so when it gets the cargo skiff gets to level 10, you can upgrade it into the sailboat, and then the sailboat has to get to level 10, and then you can upgrade that one to the Dreadnought. And then once you have the Dreadnought, you can just spam like the first voyage and just print the narrows basically. Between CPQ and that, you can get so much. But then so you have time to build up that. You need to invest the dineros in building up the boat. And then once you have the Dreadnought and you start generating the dineros, basically you get enough until you can... So what you could do, like if there's a 5, 10, 15 coming, you don't have enough to get the pendant and to transpose. What you could do is spend the dineros first to transpose the Katara, and then use the 5, 10, 15 for the Katara and hope that gets something good. If that doesn't get anything good, you can also work on a CRA, right? Those will be your options for 5, 10, 15, high priority. If the CRA is already, 18 or 19 by then, and you don't want to really risk 19 to 21, that's a little risky, right? And maybe the Katara is also already transposed at that point, then you can focus a little bit harder on getting the pendant, transposing the Dominator into the Sweetwater pendant, and then getting the pendant to 17 during the 5, 10, 15, and then with any leftover money, maybe circle back to the CRA and the Katara, provided that you have enough money, to risk going past 19, for example.
Yeah. So do you think it's worth it for me to try and go past 17 stars on my Absolab, or should I just try and stay at 17 until I can get Arcane?
You want to go past 17 before you're realistically thinking of Arcane, because thinking of Arcane is mainly once you're already doing Hard Lucid and Normal Will, I would say. And to get to the damage that you need to be able to do Hard Lucid, you will need to go over 17 star CRA, because we stick to 17 star Abzo, right? And you need to get that damage somewhere. And it's going to come from higher star for CRA and from pretty good WSE. And since your weapon is locked in, and your secondary is going to be replaced by a high star Katara later, it's going to only be coming from your emblem, so you need the CRA to supplement that.
Gotcha. Okay. So I just pretty much need to save up money for that then.
Yeah, and so potential-wise, it'll be your emblem, and it'll be like getting the gloves to crit damage, right? Those will be the main things of getting damage in a short term when it comes to potential specifically.
Okay, and then Star Forcing, I should prioritize CRA.
Yeah, so for Star Force, you always, since you're looking at past 17, you want to always prioritize what is the lowest risk, or like what is the highest chance, I guess, translate it, to make an upgrade. And that basically comes down to when booming is a chance, that comes down to having the most possible backups. And the reason you do CRA is because you can get so many backups that it's actually cheaper to just not safeguard and let it boom if it does, than to safeguard with a limited amount of backups. That just on average is going to be cheaper. So if ever you want to know, you can always use the Star Force calculator. Again, that's all part of like commands in my chat. I'll link you that one as well. And you can just put any of the numbers in of anything that you're going to try. So let's say that, you have like, to compare, right? Like say that we have like Abzo, and it's like 160, and we would safeguard, and then probably not Starcatch. I usually turn that off, and like your cape is now 16. Let's say you want to get that to 18 during a 5, 10, 15, and you can click, and then it'll just tell you like this is how much money, like the median cost, this is the average cost. Average is always going to be higher because of, you know, there's always going to be one super unlucky sap who spends like 16 bill, you know, but that's not that's not really realistic, because the lower end is, you know, that's never like 0, and then the higher end is always way more than double that. So so typically I aim somewhere like on somewhere in the middle between these two to have a buffer, but like this is the more expected cost, the median cost. But the big thing is like the average booms, right? You see the average booms for the Abzo is very low. It's like 0.06 average booms. Range of booms is only 0 to 1, right? So one guy actually only boomed it one time, but still managed to spend 16 bill on 2 stars. That's impressive. I bet he was stuck on 10 to 15 for a little bit. Yeah, but if you go like level 150 and you're already at 17 and you're trying to go for 18 without safeguarding, then this changes. So you have to make sure that that changes again. Calculate, like the average cost is this much, right? The booms is higher, right? But you have those backups. So even if you get pretty unlucky, oh, this guy boomed 6 times now. During a 5, 10, 15, you know, this is what you're looking for. And then the main thing you can also do is you could just turn off the 5, 10, 15 just to see, and then you're like, then you can see how much money you're saving every time as well. Or you can see like, okay, do I wait for 30% off, or am I going to do it during a 5, 10, 15? And then you can also kind of compare between the events, seeing, you know, what could be the difference. And so here it looks like, oh, 30% off, like you save way more, right? But then the problem is that the boom chance doubles, right? And what happens when the boom chance doubles is that the likelihood that you boom goes up. What does that mean? You have to go all the way down again and start back up from 12 and work your way up. So you see the histogram is very different, right?
Yeah.
Versus on 5, 10, 15, it's this part is way higher, right? But it's way more hit or miss with 30% off. Like you hit, very cheap, but then miss, it immediately gets way more expensive. So that spread there is also kind of important in your decision. So like all of this information is like relevant. Usually I don't look at the percentiles too much because that's just really depressing. Especially when you're like, oh, median cost like 500, and it's like, oh, 95% chance within 4 bill. Ugh, like this is just, yeah, that's depressing typically. So I usually don't look at that. But definitely before thinking of going much further on your potentials, you definitely want to be looking at pushing past 17 stars on star forcing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's a little bit counterintuitive, but for some items, you'll just push. So, for example, like for CRA, and we talked about backups, right? The other thing you have to take into account, and again, there's also a calculator for potential. If you want to see how much that's going to cost on average, you can just put them side to side and see like, okay, what makes sense. The thing is, especially with the CRA stuff, it has the biggest extremes because you get so many backups. So for star forcing, it's just best value. But then at the same time, the potentials typically on CRA are horrible. There's just so many junk lines. And you've got 27 on your top. This is like, you know, that's what I have on my arc, you know. Like, that's already like really, really good. Most of the time, you're just going to get some shitty like 1%, one like prime line stat, and then maybe an all stat line somewhere, like 18%. That's already going to be pretty good. Like your pants being 21 is already really good. Yeah,
I have hyper body on my pants. Which is
yeah, which is unfortunate, but you know, just the fact that you hit 21 already, that can be pretty expensive comparatively. So some other items you might want to push on the potential more rather than the Star Force. So typically that's accessories. Accessories have fewer junk lines and is going to be comparatively cheaper to get to better potentials. But there's a caveat, right? Because some items you will level up as the items. So let's say what you thought about the Katara, right? And then you can just work hard on the potential. But now you know about transposing, so you're like, oh, now I'm not going to spend any money on the Katara anymore because I'm going to make a side Katara, right? And then that one's going to come in. So that makes the potential on this Katara super low priority. So in a similar way, you will look at the superior items as well. Because the superior items, you know, you want to get okay potential, probably like 21% or something like that. But you don't want to go too high because typically you don't Star Force on the superior gear itself because when it booms, it's a huge price to pay, right? Like let's say you get some superior backups or for earrings or for belts, right? Because those can drop. Then you can go on the item itself. But even then, you want to get to the Star Force goal first and then work on the potential because If you spend all your money on the potential first and then you don't end up getting it, now you're backed up into a corner and all of that money invested in potential is gone. So typically for the superior pieces, you want to get the gear 10 levels lower and then Star Force that up during a 5, 10, 15, get to a high amount of stars and then transfer it over, which takes the potential away, right? And then you have to redo it. So you typically don't want to go too hard on the potential on those items. And that's going to be like the next step, like when the Katara and the CRA is kind of done, because that is going to, those backups are going to replenish themselves, right? Just because of the content you're doing daily and weekly. You also want to start looking at what are the backups and the level 140, like the fodder gear, right? That you're going to use to transfer into the Superior Gollux earrings. For example, it's going to be the reinforced Gollux earrings. So if you get any of those, you want to hold on to them. For the belts, it'll either be the reinforced belts or pink bean belts that you can get if you need backups. But it's probably going to take a while, so probably if you keep all the reinforced belts from now on, you'll probably be good. And hopefully you get a few superiors as well, so you can maybe get a cheeky, you know, like my mom actually got her very first superior belt all the way up to 21. Didn't blow anything up, so she can get rid of her belts now. She got very lucky. That'll happen to like one of your pieces as well, right? Hopefully it happens to a superior, but most of the time it'll just happen to a CRA piece that you have 100 backups for, you know, because that's just how it goes. Yeah. And then for the other stuff, it's a little bit harder, right? For the pendant, it would be a bunch of Dominator pendants, so you know, definitely hold on to those. You want to get high star Dominator and transfer hammer into the superior pendant. And then for the rings, it'll be probably the Kana treasure, because Princess Snow can drop every week now, right?
Yeah, I haven't gotten one. I just finished her pre-quest like a couple weeks ago, and I haven't gotten one yet. So.
Yeah, and I think the main reason is I don't think you have like a full drop rate and meso obtain set, right?
No, it's that greed pendant is the only thing I have, and then I have a synergy ring that I'm working on getting to legendary.
Mm-hmm.
It fucking will not tear up though.
Yeah. Well, there's most likely a DMT coming, right? So I would, so that's most likely, I think we're going to get an announcement probably in 1 to 2 weeks, because some people already had the announcement when the last patch hit, and then they got rid of that for players. But essentially, it was one of those DMTs where you can like pick a day, and then during that day there'll be several times, and you can get double chance to tier up in the week of the 22nd to the 26th of December. So it'd probably be a good idea to start saving up now for like black cubes for then, and then to try to get an accessory set for like meso and drop to switch this one out. You could even consider on some pieces that maybe don't have insane potentials right now that are legendary to maybe re-roll them to like a combination of meso or drop plus some luck. So that can, like, I wouldn't do the reinforced pendant, right? Because that's 24. That's pretty good. But maybe the earrings, honestly, that are at 15 all stat, even though all stat is pretty good for dual blade, it's still just 15. It might be good to re-roll that one because it's already legendary, so you can start cashing in for like drop or meso. Ideally drop, right? So you can also wear it for bosses, and then you know, you get the drop rate from the boss, plus you get the extra set bonus going in there. And then and the superior pendant, right? And then maybe some extra rings that you have lying around, so you can start maybe even the black beam mark, you know, because it's 18, like it's up there, but it's like, you know, so you can immediately, like when you're training, you just start making way more money and getting way more cards once the cards drop in your area, plus get more droplets, because you already mentioned before, like droplets are really hard to get, right? That'll improve as well, and more nodes, because you still need to fix your node situation, and I think that'll also increase the amount of mesos that you get, right? And again, make sure you double check the links there at the end of the familiar thing that talk about the drop rate and the meso obtain and all of that, and the stacking, so you can know those percentages. Because that'll help you a lot in getting more value, maybe even the superior ring, maybe. But like more value while you're training, definitely not the reinforced. That's already 30, so you leave that one. You leave that one alone. Yeah, because the sooner you get that stuff started, the sooner you'll start making the big bucks while you're training, and then you'll be able to, when the next big 5, 10, 15 rolls around and you have all these projects that you want to do, the more gains you'll be able to make there. And it'll be less like, okay, every single time the event comes around, I only have like 2 or 3 bills, so you can't make any huge commitments there, because every single thing will just be too high risk, right?
Yeah.
So hopefully you get to the situation where you can get your passive income even higher with bossing mules, with more income when you do train, and I think it'll also make you probably want to train a bit more if you can see those results immediately, right? You can see more cards, you can see better chance of actually getting a droplet, more money every training session. You know, not that I want you to play more that you need to, but when you know, it could also feel like at a certain point, like once you hit 240, it could be like, okay, now I'm just like stuck, like I can't level at all because I just don't feel like training. But hopefully that'll lower the barrier a little bit to doing a training session, because, you know, you'll get the same amount of EXP, but then all the other stuff that comes in will be increased substantially.
Do you know, I'm almost done with my Vanishing Journey symbol. When I finish that symbol, am I still able to do it twice a week to get the node stones?
Yes, you can still keep doing it, yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, it's only 3, but you know, every week like 3 extra. That is nice.
Yeah.
That does add up over time for sure.
I think I'm like 3 weeks away from getting my Monster Park medal as well, so.
Okay, that's nice, that's nice. Yeah, with that and with the Superior Switch, you can definitely redo the emblem. But I don't know if you bought like a bunch of cubes during the sale.
No, I was, like I said, I worked 24-hour shifts, so I actually missed that entire day.
Oh, that's an unfortunate yeah. Yeah, it's too bad. But I mean, then again, you probably didn't have that much money to buy cubes with anyway, and you wanted to use it during the 5-10-15, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little too close together anyway. It should have been like a week or 2 apart. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate scheduling.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, we went over a lot, but there's like the general, and you know, I think it'll probably be a good idea for a lot of the stuff that we mentioned, and I sent you a bunch of links in Discord as well, is to really go into the commands and like to flush out like the details. But I think the broad lines, like, you know, where does damage come from, how is it all balanced, like where do you want to look at spending your money, and you know, like we didn't really go into depth on the Legion and everything, but the Legion is looking fine, and it seems like you're okay with like doing that on the side. That's going at a pretty good pace, right? And your Legion board looks fine as well. So I mean, I didn't see like the need to go in depth. I don't know if you had any questions about that.
No, yeah, I kind of just, whenever there's a burning event, I'll just burn a new character. I'll probably do a shade next for the crit damage.
Mm-hmm.
And then just probably get him to 140, but for the most part, yeah, I'm pretty set on Legion.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a Evan?
Yes, I do.
Wait,
Is that a worthwhile spot in my Legion?
Yeah, it's just at least the level 2 link there is really good, right? Because it extends the rune duration.
Oh,
that's
yes,
really solid.
I don't think I put him in there, but I do have a level 120.
Yeah, it might be at like 120-ish. Yeah, below 125. Yeah. Yeah, like again, like for links and for Legion as well, I've got like a list of like the general priority that I see for people's accounts that can help you like build your account and make you stronger. Like you said, like the shade would probably be pretty close on that list, but there might be some like level 120s that you have or something that that I can't see here. But if you have, you probably have most of those, because I don't know how many you have in total, because that part is like cut off the screenshot. But I mean, your total level being like 4.6 probably means that you have at least like in the early 30s in your characters, right? Like 32 or 34 or something like that.
Yes, I have, yeah. I think it's 33. I have 33 characters.
That was pretty close.
And
right in the
yeah,
middle.
most of those other ones that aren't showing are in the 120s, and
Yep.
I have a couple that are just 70 for the first.
Yeah, those really enjoyable classes that you just couldn't wait to get to 200, yeah.
Exactly.
We all have a few of those.
Yep.
Link skill isn't that important. Classes not enjoyable at all. I guess you're gonna be level 73 for a while, buddy. Yeah, we definitely have some of those. Those are good mega burn targets usually.
Yeah, couldn't bring myself to play any longer.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think I put on my Link skills that I have active right now.
Oh yeah, yeah. As long as you have kind of in your head like, okay, these I'm just waiting for a mega burn, these I'm just waiting for a terra burn, so that you have like, you know, and then when the event comes around, it goes into the event calendar. You can see like, oh shit, big stuff coming, and then you're like, okay, finally time to shine for the mechanic, time to get to 150 boy, and then you can send that one all the way up. Yes, just specifically for bossing, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that crit. Yeah. Yeah, this looks pretty solid. Like, eventually you probably want to get rid of Keen Edge is definitely like one of the weaker ones in here. And then Hybrid Logic will get weaker comparatively as you're building up more percentage stat, right? Again, kind of the same idea with the diminishing returns, like with damage that I explained. Like, once you get a lot of percentage stat on everything, it'll be more important to get like utility for surviving or just percentage damage again at that point, rather than just piling on 10% more stat. Like, scaling wise, that'll lose out. But that's mainly once all of your accessories are like, or not even just accessories, but like all of your stats for the potentials are mainly like above 2 stat, right? So like 24, 27, 30, maybe even 33% on like all of your pieces. Then Hybrid Logic is going to lose a lot of its efficiency. And
what about
then
Sigma's Blessing? Is that one that I should get rid of too?
Sigma's Blessing is an interesting one. I think very early on like new characters, it could be really good because it's just a bunch of flat attack, and most characters start with very little attack. And then as you get into more attack and everything, you'll have more damaging. Like the damage percentage ones will then outwin the flat attack, especially because of the reboot passive change. But then when you get to the end game and you know you can kill the bosses, but you want more survivability, Sigma's Blessing is a nice mix because it makes it so that when you get stunned or when you get sealed or any of that stuff, it happens shorter, so you'll have more survivability from it, and it still also gives you that flat attack. So it's like a nice compromise between survivability and damage. So it might be in this situation, like you'll mainly use it for bosses like once you start doing like Hard Lotus or something that just has so much stuff falling from the sky. Now you're dual blade, so you can dark side a bunch of that, so I don't know if it's as important for you there, but basically anything where you notice that you're like getting stuck on things or stunned, or you know you're just getting railed by boss attacks, then Sigma's Blessing could be a nice one to switch in for whichever other skill gives like the least amount of damage. But I'm guessing, like, yeah, if you're doing party bossing, you probably want to switch in the Adele, for example, instead of Keen Edge. That would be a good switch, because that'll basically be equivalent of 12% damage. Same thing as the Unfair Advantage when it max stack.
Is Kane Link skill any good?
So for some people, it'll like just make the cut, but for most people, it just won't make the cut. Like, it'll be between. It usually is like link skill number 11, 12, 13, or 14, or 15, you know? It's like right at the end. So for sometimes it does make it. Typically, it can just make the cut if you're doing like something that doesn't require a lot of IED and you have enough crit, then it can just like slot in. But other skills like the resistance link skill, is the Spirit of Freedom, that one is more likely to make it for the utility and, you know, just to save you from raging, basically, when you're like dying and you respawn and you immediately die to another thing. Like, oh yeah, if I had Spirit of Freedom here, I wouldn't have died, you know? It'll save you some buff freezers and a lot of headache, usually.
Yeah, I know it's really good for Lucid, especially.
Yeah, oh yeah, you could just, well, and that's when you're, what was the skill again that you didn't use for mobility?
No, what's it called? Blade Ascension. I only use it for mobility.
Yeah, so for Lucid, what you could do is like you can do the up Blade Ascension, right, and then jump over some golems with the Spirit of Freedom on, and you could just get right back to the middle and continue damaging. That's really useful.
Okay.
So it does have its perks. They are switching the resurrection mechanic in a lot of bosses though, where you like get rezzed inside the boss immediately, and it doesn't go for like black screen and everything. So you get like a second and a half or so of invincibility from that. But it's always nice to have Spirit of Freedom to back it up, because that's like 8 seconds on max, so that gives you a bit more leeway. Especially if, you know, if the boss is like boss is bound and you're supposed to be bursting, but you died right before, so you're kind of like waiting because you know the bind is coming. And then you res, and you're completely immune. You can just pop all your skills and just start bursting, and you don't have to worry about anything hitting you. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it would be nice if the bosses worked how they should in this game. Like, I don't know how many times on my hero when
that's a pretty tall order, dude. You're asking a bit too much now.
I'll go to fight Pierre and I bind him, and then he doesn't get bound and he splits. And it's like, oh god.
Yeah, beautiful.
30 minutes later.
Yeah, try again in 30 minutes. Love those boss cooldowns too. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So a lot of stuff. Talk about the Matrix. Equip-wise, do you feel well equipped to move on from this point?
Yeah, I think I feel good. I think I'm gonna try and go in the Discord and find maybe a party to do Lucid with.
Yeah, check Discord, check the Twitch chat. You have Striker who wants to go. Maybe Striker can also look inside our guild. Maybe there's 1 or 2 more people there who want to do normal Lucid on a weekly basis as well. And then you put 2 and 2 together. Now you have 4. Now you find 1 fill, and you can 5-man probably. So then, yeah, it works if everyone in the party kind of does their part, and if not everyone is like, well, I'll show up and that's it. I'm not gonna do anything else. Oh, look, Galunga says, I'm down for weekly Lucid, and Cyanide says, normal Lucid, you say. No, okay, well, that could already... We're already looking at almost 4 people now, right? So it's all about just bringing it up every now and then and looking in the right places. It does require some effort, but once you've got a party of people who are, at least somewhat serious about it, shouldn't be too bad.
Awesome. All right, well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, if there's anything based on a session that comes up and you still have an additional question, let me know in Discord. If it's just like because of the commands or anything, you can always ask in chat, even if I'm busy with something. There's a lot of people in chat who are very familiar with all of my commands and with the answers that I usually give to people. So very good chance that someone in chat will be able to clarify something for you as well. So don't feel you can always reach out. Don't feel bad about that. And yeah, I'll upload it to YouTube, and then you can watch it back if you need to remind you. I'm guessing that you wrote some stuff down because you were like quiet during some parts. That's usually when people are writing that stuff down. Yeah, so if you want to double check that you got everything, I try to make sure that it didn't ramble too quickly, so you could actually, get the priorities and everything.
No, it was helpful for sure. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, you're welcome. Well, best of luck on everything. It's always nice to see a non-Adele or Kana as well on these sessions, so I bet people in the chat are going to be happy with that as well. So someone's saying like, yay, a dual blade, finally not an Adele. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can't really be mad because Adele's just so strong. But yeah, for bossing mule, I would highly, if you're trying to path of least resistance, Adele is like your friend. Plus a good link skill still for bossing later on. All right. Well, good luck. And I'll
thank you.
Yeah, and I'll see you around in chat.
All right.
All right. Have a good one. Bye. Boom. Right. I hope the sound was good because I saw the volume coming a little bit in and out for him, so I tried to adjust it. But yeah, as he said in the beginning, his microphone wasn't great. So I hope the volume came through fine. But I guess I'll see you in the comment section. Speaking of the comment section, I'll be drawing the winners for November for the free sessions, the 2 winners. So stay tuned to your YouTube comments. This video will start counting for December, of course. But again, as always, I will draw 2 winners per month. So if you would want to win one of these sessions for yourself for free, make sure you leave a comment saying that you would like to win, and then you will have the possibility at the end of the month, or I guess at the start of January of the new year 2021. Oh my god, it's the last month of 2020 already. Jesus. You have a chance. I mean 2022. I'm already a year behind COVID and everything. I lost 2 years. Where did everything go? No. Of course, 2022, the last month of 2021. But yeah, as always, thanks for watching. I hope it was useful, educational for you. If all of the information in the links and all of this stuff flew by a little bit too fast and was a little bit too hard to follow because there's so much information on your screen, make sure you drop by the stream, Twitch stream. I'm always streaming there every day. Make sure you use exclamation mark and then whatever you're looking for, or you can use exclamation mark info and it'll give you a file that has all of the commands that I have, which you can use to, either refresh your knowledge or boost up your understanding of a certain topic. Or maybe you find something that's maybe a little bit outdated, and you can let me know so I can update it as well. It's a lot of work keeping all of those things up to date, but that's the main reason, or the main way that I would share information with you guys rather than YouTube videos. I don't make as many guide YouTube videos because they take long to make and they get outdated really easily. So I prefer to use a command system. So let me know if you want to help with that, or if you just want to use the information in that. Other than that, if you want one of these sessions for you, you don't want to wait the line. You don't want to wait to get RNG drawn as a winner. Then there's a link in the description on how you can get one of these paid sessions with me. There's also a link there if you want to join my guild in NA Reboot, or if you want to submit data to me that helps me keep my my commands and keeps my information up to date. Anything from battle analysis to monster skill per hour, so we can look at how good classes mob, how well classes mob, or training videos to see how you guys do that. All of the input is very much helpful, and it keeps my knowledge of all the classes up to date as well, because obviously I can't play all of the classes at a high level. I don't have that kind of time or desire. I can't even play one class at a high level, so let alone 48, 49, too many. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.